Welcome to another Michigan Insider Film session. This week, rewinding, recapping, and going over, reviewing the 48-42 triple overtime victory over Rutgers. Not a game that in a normal year you would expect to be a nail biter or to be close. But Al, I think it's important to talk about, react to, adjust to where you are, not where you were or where you want to be. This is about where they are, and this was a 1-3 football team heading into that game that was very comparable to the competition. Both teams struggled mightily in other games, had some serious flaws that they showed on tape. Both teams were able to exploit those weaknesses in the other squad. Fortunately for Michigan, they were able to get the winning taste back in their mouth, albeit against, like I said, a very down Rutgers team. But you take it where you can get it. For this team this year, Al, they needed a W and they were able to get one.
Yeah, there's no question. They're going to – I was watching Rich Eisen earlier. He's a Michigan alum, and he's talking about how his wife said, but it's Rutgers. I said, well, I promise you Rutgers was saying, well, it's Michigan. I mean, they're 1-3. They're no better than us. That's the way they're thinking is they see blood in the water and an opportunity to get a win, particularly at home. And they weren't playing like it was, we're playing Michigan, and before you even kick off, you're down 14 points. That's the way it's kind of been some years, but I didn't like that this year. So there was other issues involved there, But the game was interesting. I mean, it's interesting because Joe Milton got taken out of the game. I kind of felt bad because he had a nice start, I thought. I mean, he looked really comfortable. I think he hit his first 4 passes in a row, Sam. Is that right?
He did.
Yeah, he did. He had a nice third down conversion on a little stick route to the tight end. And I think he was rolling along pretty good. And I was feeling pretty good about him. And then he hit a point where they ran an empty package play, and he didn't identify a hot route. He took a sack. And from that point on, it kind of deteriorated. He had one more good throw. He threw a seam down the middle for a first down on a third down conversion. But for the most part, it started going downhill, and it reached a point where had they not made a quarterback change, they could have very well lost that game. So I think it was probably sound thinking by the coaching staff. And, they're still going through some growing pains with their offensive line. They're not handling twists as well as I'm sure Coach Warner would like them to. And pass protection hasn't been fantastic. They finally got the running backs involved. I was excited. I mean, we said 3 weeks. We haven't heard from any of them. But this week, because they were able to convert more third downs, they got the running backs more involved in the game, and they were huge, particularly in the fourth quarter. I think the quarterback change did rejuvenate the team. And, McNamara shows a little bit of that it factor. I always wondered what the hell that was for a long time. I'm starting to realize the it factor means you may not be the best looking thrower. You may have a strange arm angle, or you may not have, be real imposing in size and all that. But when you get under center and, you look like you know what you're doing, you can do it. So I think, Sam, we talk a lot about identity, and I think if you wanted to, and again, I'm just saying this from my own perspective, but I think I would not be surprised if the Michigan coaches at least agree with this in part. That fourth quarter drive, I think, defined what they'd like their identity to be. Because
that last fourth quarter drive.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, they did it all. They pounded Haskins. They ran the RPOs. They ran the run control. The offense was run the way I'm sure they want the offense to look. I know I was impressed with what they were doing. The thing I think that will rejuvenate the team more than anything is McNamara's emergence, because he's coming a game 2 weeks now. And it's getting to be a little bit too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence. They play well when he's in the game. So
yeah, and I kind of want to start there because we'll get into the unraveling is not the right word. Going stagnant is, I think, the best way to sort of describe what happened with Joe Millen. You're right. He started out very sharp. They gave him some easy throws to get his confidence going, his momentum flowing. And then it sort of went stagnant very, very quickly. And while he didn't turn the football over, he didn't press things, the offense wasn't moving. And K. McNamara comes in and boom, he instantly gives them that jolt. Second week in a row that he did that, and he was able to maintain that over the rest of the game. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like a no-brainer who you got to give the keys to now the rest of the way. But you get a lot of questions now, and as an OC, I think it's important that we start here to get your take on this notion that they must have just ignored what they saw in practice. That there's no way that they could have seen Joe Milton be the better guy in practice and see it show up in games the way in which it has. And just to rewind the tape a bit, you go back fall camp, and I'm talking about coaches, I'm talking about players, and I'm talking about both sides of the ball. Sometimes you can get offensive guys like Al Borges fudging a little bit about how they're doing against the defense in practice, right? But if the defensive guys are saying the same thing, if the defensive players are saying the same thing, and coaches, if there's a consensus about what's happening in practice, that sort of tells you that, no, this is not up for interpretation. Everyone is saying that he was out front, that he won the job, that he was the top performer. He looked like that in game one, Al. Mm-hmm. He looked like, I imagine he looked in practice in game one. I mean, based on their descriptions of practice, he probably looked even better in practice than he did in game one. Problem was he wasn't able to maintain that. He got an opportunity to get up off the mat against Rutgers in game 5. Started out strong, but that fizzled very, very quickly. So I ask you, Al, can you understand how they could have seen a practice performance give them the impression that Joe Milton was going to be the guy, and then they get on the field and they see, well, hey, man, one guy is not able to carry it over as readily or as consistently as the other guy, who just seems like, at least the small sample space, it just seems like a baller.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious why. I've made this mistake, and I don't think anybody who's coached any length of time hasn't made the mistake. And Joe Milton's right out of central casting with regard to quarterback. He's a big, tall, strong-armed, strong-looking kid who's imposing looking. He can throw the ball, probably through a wall. Shows some running skills. I mean, and then you look at Cade McNamara, and I think he's not frail by any means, but he doesn't look near as good on the hoof as Joe does. Does not throw the ball with the velocity Joe does. Probably doesn't run as fast as Joe does. Probably doesn't do a lot of things physically that Joe did. Okay. And Joe's actually played a little bit, before, not much, but a little bit. And you take him through a fall camp, and, you bring 100 coaches in there to evaluate him. You're probably 99 are going to come out there saying that, Milton's the kid you got to go with, But here's the tricky part. Okay. Here's the tricky part. McNamara shows up a little more when you go live. Okay. Now, I don't know how much live work they got with the pandemic and all these issues. They may have got plenty. They may not have got hardly any. But sometimes, and you've heard me use this term before, so much of how the quarterback performs is game specific. You can go through all the drills, all the 7-on-7s. God knows I've had a million really good 7-on-7 quarterbacks. When you put the other 4 players out there on offense, the other 4 players out there on defense, they weren't near the same players. They couldn't, you never saw their playmaking ability in 7-on-7, And I'm just using that as one example, but there's game-specific stuff. Guys that in games, they turn it up a notch. All of a sudden, they start doing stuff that didn't expose itself as much in practice or maybe even in a live scrimmage as it does in games. So sometimes you got to get them in a game to find out. Now, if the guy ahead of him's playing really good, you may never find out, But when the guy ahead of him's not playing as good and you put him in a game and all of a sudden, boom, holy smoke, this guy's composed. Man, this guy has another gear when it's time to play, whether it be mentally or whatever. He's just doing stuff that you would never anticipate. Oh, look, he got out of a jam. I never saw that in practice. We kept blowing the whistle, to stop play so nobody got hurt. So we didn't see him get out of that jam and make that great throw on the run or do something. And all of a sudden these things keep coming up. And I said, well, how come this guy wasn't playing forever? Well, because we didn't play a game. We did some scrimmaging. We didn't hit the quarterbacks. We didn't, and so it's hard to evaluate. in its entirety what his play is, compared to the other guys. So hell, at the end of the day, who are we going to go with? Hell, I'm going with Milton. Milton's big, strong, strapping, out of central casting, throw the ball through a wall. This guy looks like he can do it, and showed in the first game he could do it. It deteriorated some. Cade got his shot. He starts showing some things, and now not once but twice now. Well, it starts talking back to you. Who is, at this point anyway, the better game performer? Because you win with performance, not potential, and particularly at that position. So yes, in the answer to your question, I gave you a long-winded answer, but you can get fooled in practice easily, particularly when the guy that's you're playing looks so good, looks like so much like what you're looking for. It's like Drew Henson and Tom Brady. Well, Tom Brady was a skinny, frail kid. And Drew Benson was perfect, right? I mean, he could throw it, he could run, and Tom Brady was not, especially in college, was not the most imposing looking dude. But in a game.
And so last broad question before we start digging into the video. There is also the talk out there that when Cade McNamara got in the game, they started running different offense. They called the game differently. There was a different menu of plays when Cade McNamara was in the game. As you've gone over the film several times now, like I know you have, and we've gone over it together now as well, did you notice, was there a notable difference, a tangible difference in the play sheet for Cade versus the play sheet for Joe?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I don't see any different offense. I've watched the same RPOs, the same running game, gap schemes, pin and pulls now for 2 years under Coach Gaddis. I don't know. Well, the thing that's different is they're getting more plays run. Okay. Now I didn't see what was the total plays run in this last game.
I don't have that on top of my head.
But it's a lot. It's probably because of triple overtime. It's probably in the 80s, 70s to 80s, right? Well, how many game plays did they run last week? 43. Well, you're going to see more plays, and the natural deduction that you're going to do so. Well, they're running a different offense. Look, we saw a wham play, we saw a split zone variation. Well, when you get first downs, you get more plays run, and more stuff shows up. You know what I mean? But to say they're running a different style, after I've been over all the games now and looked at all the play, I don't see any significant difference in the style of play based on who the quarterback is. They're still running RPOs, they're still running line routes, they're still running pin and pulls, they're still running all the stuff that you saw in the first, 3 or 4 football games. And last week when he came in, I don't think it was any different then either. He's just moving the chains more, so you're seeing more plays run.
First one we're going to get to is Joe attacking Tampa too late. And you might recall, Al, that I think in the last 2 weeks we've gone over Joe attacking Tampa 2, right? Or Joe attacking cover 2, I should say. We've gone over him attacking cover 2. And I think the thing that we noted, number one, is I think the recognition of that coverage is really good. I think he knows, I think there's the weakness that he tries to exploit. He tries to go to it. He tries to go to that seam every time. And when it's not there, how quickly he processes that becomes, I think that becomes the issue. All right. Joe attacking Tampa 2. I'm gonna let it roll to the telestration now. First, the first part that's gonna be highlighted is your linebacker making the drop in Tampa 2. So explain why we highlighted him, Al.
Well, in Tampa 2, what's the difference between 2 deep and Tampa 2, base cover 2 and Tampa 2? In Tampa 2, the Mike linebacker is going to run through the middle with any receiver stretching the post. He'll just kind of check them as they go. For example, the tight end might be number 1. If the tight end erases himself, you might have a back running down the seam. You may have a slot running down the seam. But he's going to run down the seam, which allows the safeties to play a little bit wider than they normally would in cover 2. Now, that's good because now it's a little tougher to hit fades on them if you don't time them out right, or if you don't look them off. One of the issues with it, though, is it gives you a good matchup on the Mike linebacker if you got a receiver inside that can maneuver him a little bit, And so you may not be able to throw in the hole like you normally do in cover 2 against Tampa, but you may be able to throw underneath the hole because he's blowing out of there so fast. You
Right.
understand that?
Yeah, I understand exactly what you mean. You mean the whole, you like to attack behind the linebackers, in between the two safeties, at
Correct.
the seam area. It
At 18
against
to 22
normally
yards.
against cover two, right? But
Right.
when Dungy and the guys got to Tampa, they had Derek Brooks, and Derek Brooks could really, really run, right? So you had that Mike Backer that could carry, all the way down the middle of the field.
He could almost play a third, almost play like a free
Right.
safety. You know, he could play a third of the field from Mike linebacker, which is pretty impressive, you know.
Right. And so you're going to see, as this rolls, you're going to see this guy bug out. He's going to bug out, and he's going to carry this seam. And that's where Joe wants to go. If you paid attention to, and not just Joe, I mean, that's where you want. I mean, that's what you like, right? Al, you like the seam, right? So you understand why he wants to go there. But this guy bugs out. That takes away where Joe, or at least he believes it takes away where he wants to go with the football initially. So we'll let this run. See that guy bugging out.
Yep, he's gone.
He comes off of it, but it's just a little late. He came off of it late.
Now you take 3 hitch steps, right? You take 3 hitch steps off the drop, and the ball's going to naturally be late. Now this the photos, because that's where you want the ball. That's that 18 to 22 yard hole. You can see that near safety hasn't got off the hash, so he's not really getting that wide. Usually they get a little wider in Tampa too. So you've got that hole, but it's got to come up off a plant throw or a hitch or quick hitch, so that it comes down no deeper than 22 yards deep. When we illustrated this, we made that circle started about 18 and ended about 22. So you see the area that ball's got to be placed. Right. So once you decide, can I hit that? If I can't hit that because the safety's too wide or the corner eats it up or whatever, now in Tampa, I got a wide receiver running on a Mike linebacker who's trying to haul ass out of there to try and protect the middle. You see the safety's gone, right, Sam? Mm-hmm. You see that?
Yeah, I do.
He's got to cover that receiver down the middle. Well, the receiver runs a little stop comeback, and the Mike linebacker runs by it and leaves that thing wide open. So if you can't throw that whole shot on time, reset your feet and throw the ball coming out of the break. But what happened, he held it too long. The safety and the corner stole his aerial, ran back. I mean, you see right there, there's good separation for that throw if that's up on time.
Right. He let this guy take that away from him, though. And you're saying he should have stayed with it.
Yeah, if he believed in Tampa that safety was going to widen to double it, which he really didn't, but say he did, the soft spot is to either run the Mike linebacker on the comeback move or back shoulder the inside slot. Now, a lot of times a Mike linebacker is trailing him and doesn't even see the ball thrown, okay? So you can throw a back shoulder and he's oblivious to the throw. But here, they just run a little stop turnout, and the Mike linebacker overruns it, and there's a hole in there. You could drive a truck. See, look how open he is. Right. But you can't throw that fade, and we've already been down this road, and this is one of the reasons, this has been recoached. We can't throw that fade that late and allow the safety to get off the hash or the corner to eat it up, which is what happened there. The corner rated up. That's got to come up faster if you're going to make that throw. And if you see that it's just too late, just throw the inside guy, All
right. So now we're going to get into a play where you might remember, I want to say, I think it was against Michigan State, where they ran a bluff, right? And you might remember Eric All coming, he came across. Yep. And he bluffs that 5, and he gets in the alley and he stops and looks back for Joe. You guys remember that? If you were watching, if you've seen this series that we do, well, they ran a bluff here, and I'm gonna bring this one up now. All right, so let me start it from the beginning. This is a double wing bluff missed pull.
Yep,
he should pull this ball.
Yeah, this was the same crack bluff that we saw either last week or the week before, I can't remember which. But the near wing is going to crack the inside linebacker. The far wing, well, you see it on the
So let's get. So we highlight the stand up.
I like the stand up. The stand up's the guy we're picking on. Okay, we're going to pick on him. We're going to arc around him, and we're going to pretend like we're going to run a split zone, and then we're going to go around him. Okay. the 82, Eubanks is going to crack the inside linebacker.
Mhm.
And All is going to do the bluffing, and he's going to take the alley. The quarterback is going to read the end. Now, we talked about this a year ago,
Right,
and I think
so again, split zone, this guy comes across, he's gonna bluff this guy. He's gonna
right.
bluff this guy like he's blocking him and take the alley.
So everything should look the same as a split zone, okay? Now, the quarterback now has got to see whether that stand-up guy, or what is in essence their defensive end, if he squeezed it or not. How did he squeeze it so much that I can pull the ball? And
So
again,
he goes inside.
Squeeze meaning coming down so far. And again, we talked about this a year ago, and I'm gonna reiterate this because we really haven't talked about much of this year. His shoulders do not tell you, unlike I've heard from a lot of coaches. Well, if he turns, we're gonna pull it. If he stays square, we're gonna hand it off. No. It's not that. I wish it was that simple, but it's not that simple. Because sometimes he'll keep his shoulders square, but still squeeze too far. That's what's happening here.
Right.
He squeezes too far, and you got to know as a quarterback, can I pull that ball and get the edge? Okay. Right. Because here's an instance where, again, he squeezes with his shoulders square, but he goes so far down, that ball's pulled and you're out the gate. Okay. So you can see the visual there. The halfback's coming downhill, attacking that A gap until he can't. Quarterback's going to come off the midline, allow that back to clear, and watch that stand-up end.
Right. All right. So again, you see the telestration now, where you have Eubanks coming to get the inside backer. You have All bluffing the 5. So he's gonna come around, act like he's gonna block him, come around this edge here, and of course, I mean, you could give this ball if it looks like this guy isn't coming inside. But if this guy squeezes, like Al says, if he comes inside, this guy right here that we highlighted, you pull that ball and you got a convoy.
That's right.
You've got a convoy.
Again, it's eyes, shoulders, and demeanor. Remember that one? Eyes, shoulders, and demeanor. Those are all tips to tell you whether he's playing the back or he's playing the quarterback. A lot of times, if he's looking at you, he's going to play you.
All right, so I'm going to let it roll. All right. Now watch. Now I highlighted Joe, because look at Joe. You see him pointing in his chest?
Oh, he knew it.
He knew it. He knew it right away. I messed that up. Because again, look at who we highlight, the 5. This is the guy that you're paying attention to. This is the guy you're reading. If he stays out here, then okay, yeah, we like these numbers up inside. Let's run it. But if he comes inside, I'm keeping that ball. I'm running around, and I got a couple of blockers out here to lead me down the football field.
And you got to understand too, Sam, is that wing back coming across on the bluff is going to influence him to squeeze more. So whenever we have a bluff called as opposed to a split zone, we think a little more pull. Understand? We think a little more pull, knowing that unlike a normal zone read where nobody's really attacking him at all, you're just watching what he does. He's being attacked here. So right. He's more likely to squeeze a little bit, knowing that there's a possibility of the split zone.
Now look at this picture. Look how far inside this stand-up guy is. Eubanks is going to have him. It was this Roman Wilson has the corner. You got a blocker coming around the alley here. If you're Joe Milton, you're going to be running for a while. You may not go the distance, but Al, you're going to be running a while.
Yeah.
And so again, he realizes, and he's like, oh man, what did I just do? Pointing to himself right now. Like, that's me, guys. That's me. He knew it. So you can kind of see, again, that was just the first, but he's going pretty well still. He's completed 4 passes early. That's just one mistake, right? But then later on, that pass play that we showed you earlier, he had that miss. And so he started feeling a certain kind of way. And then, Al, there was the one with the missed hot.
Yeah, and I think this is the one that influenced it as much as any now. All right. Okay. This is an empty pass, which means you got 5 guys blocking 5 guys, and what you'd like to do is get those 5 linemen blocking the 5 guys that are going to rush. Okay, in this instance, they had a tendency that most of the blitzes came from the field side. So they are declaring their center to turn to the field side. So the center, the right guard, and the right tackle, knowing that the tight end is releasing now, are going to handle the 3 guys to the right, the 3 technique, the stand-up, and the linebacker. The left guard and the left tackle are going to handle the 2 down guys. Well, that makes all 5 accounted for, okay? That means that the man you're highlighting there who's walked out on the slot is hot. If he comes, the man over him will run a slant, and the quarterback will flip him the ball before he can get to him, okay? Now, the slide is to the field, but understand, and again, I don't think they did this, but you can also, if the quarterback thinks something's up, can redirect the slide. That's another option, but I don't think they did that here. And I don't think it matters, because if he just knows that this guy's free, there's a big hole in there. Now, as you look at the offset of the linebacker, when you see the empty formation, the Mike linebacker is offset toward the tight end, and as you allow the telestration to go, you'll see. But as you look at the configuration of the split safety defense, there's a big hole right there in the middle. And you got that thing drawn right there. See that between those 2 linebackers, that Mike linebacker offset with the tight end and allowed a huge hole in it. That's where they're the softest, okay? And even if backer did not blitz, if that slot could beat him inside, which I've seen slots do, even with the guy playing inside position, because the matchup's good, you want to throw the ball in there, okay? So as he looks at it, and let's let the telestration go, Sam.
Okay.
He's got a stick route going with the tight end, which is a little 6-yard out. He's got a slant going with the slot, with a little route coming in behind it, just in case he can't get it. So the 2 number 1 receivers are either the tight end, depending on if the linebacker offsets or not, or the slot. But the weakness in the defense is the hole in the middle of the defense with the 2 deep safeties, okay? That linebacker blitzes and creates an even bigger hole. But he's got to have awareness that that's where the weakness in the protection is. You can see the 5 have the 5. They're all drawn just the way we talked about. And as you let it go, you can see that the slot is open.
But he has to have recognition of where the free guy is.
Right. You have to know who's unblocked, particularly in empty, because you've only got 5 blockers. Okay. And you either got to get your blockers to that blitzer, or if you can't see it in time, check the protection, or that's not your plan. Just say we're going to slide to the field. You got to know where the free defender is. Right. So that as soon as he comes, that ball's out right now.
Right. So he missed this guy. This is on Joe all the way. He has to know it's hot. He missed that guy.
Yeah.
And he comes and he obviously makes the play in the backfield. He played more. It's not like they took him out after that, Al, but this gets to your, what did you call it? Compounded failure.
Yeah, it's compounded failure. You didn't read the bluff play right. Now you didn't read the empty pass right. Again, another, and look at what it's costing you. On a bluff play, it was a big play. He's going to pull that. That was going to be, I don't know how many yards, because he can run the ball now. And the stick route there was going to be a good, 10, 15 yard gain if he hits that. So not only you only gained 2 yards on the bluff, which should have been better, and you lost 7 or 8, maybe 9 yards on the stick. So not only you're not getting the play you should be getting, you're losing yardage. Okay, and now that's putting you in bad down and distance, and we all know how that compounds. So,
right. All right. So they eventually go to Cade, right? To Cade McNamara, right. And he comes in, and Al, it was impressive to say the least.
Yeah.
But that young man was able to come in the game and do right away. Let's do the side adjust. Let's do the side adjust on the cited just on a counterplay versus trap. All right. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And you just really liked his recognition.
Well, this might be the most impressive play of the game from a coach's perspective. Now,
All right.
he had bigger plays, don't get me wrong, but just to see this is something. All right. Take a look at the beginning of the configuration of the defense. It looks like a two deep, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to run an open side counter play with the right guard pulling and the wing back pulling, okay? The corner now is in position to blitz, but does not blitz. I've got to be honest with you. When I watched the game, I thought he did, but he really didn't. When I watched the copy of it, I realized he actually kind of soft plays it and then jumps into a trap position. But the thing that's impressive about it is a quarterback who's got to step off the midline, just like he does on the pistol run for the counter, eyeballs the corner's move through the sequence of the play.
Yeah, how did he see it? Because your point is the corner doesn't trigger right away.
No, he does not. You're going to see it. Let it telestrate, Sam. I think we did a pretty good job. So cited just off a counter play versus a trap. The corner actually starts back a little bit and then jumps into the alley, but McNamara never takes his eye off it. Okay. So as soon as he triggers to stop the counter, he pulls the ball out and throws a little deep hitch route to the X receiver for a nice gain.
Right. So you would think that if the corner drops, to your point, Al, he's like, okay, I don't have that.
I don't have that because now your numbers are good, right?
Right.
Now your numbers are good. You got a hat for a hat. Everybody's caps are good to go. But if he doesn't do this, Sam, they're a man short.
Right.
Okay. Which is,
he adds to the box late.
Yes.
And it creates a hole behind, and you'll see that. You see this out here. How Cade McNamara saw this. And I mean, he's cold. He's coming off the bench, Al. He hasn't been watching the game. He hasn't been on the field seeing how things unfold, right?
Well, I'm a purist and a critic, and I was impressed. I mean, look at that. See that would have been easy to miss that one. Now, had it been a corner blitz, I'd have screamed bloody murder if he didn't see it, but that was not.
Right. So let's do it again so you can, now that we've explained it, you can understand that him recognizing this was some good stuff.
Yeah, this is impressive. Now, I think when he's thinking, Sam, right off the top, he sees the corner up in possible blitz position, okay, and knows that there's a possibility it's coming, and he doesn't want to screw it up, so he just keeps his eyes on him. He says, oh, look, he trapped. Ball. And you know what, Sam? This might not even be a trap. This might just be a trigger for the run. I called it a trap because he ended up inside. He may just be triggering the run. I don't care what it is. He vacated, and he gave you that route, and the quarterback saw it and took advantage of it.
Yeah, that's great recognition.
Yeah.
Great recognition by Cade McNamara. So he's giving you a shot. He's making you right. I mean, we're going to talk later on about how Hassan Haskins just made some plays right that were wrong. It was like, this was one of those situations where you could see how he could hand that ball off and it would have been a good decision, but it would have been a bad play.
Yeah.
Well, it would have been a bad outcome.
Yeah. And that's happened already in the game already, but he avoided them adding in and getting, gaining an advantage.
Again, seeing the open man and not missing him. What do you say?
Yeah, giving him a chance to make the play, right?
Yeah, you said basically punt him the ball, right?
I don't care. It doesn't have to be a tight spiral.
All right.
It doesn't have to be pretty.
All right, here we go, Al. I'm gonna let it roll.
Okay, now this is a corner blitz. He triggers now. Okay, and you can see he's a little tighter than he was last time, so he's coming. But what's cool is Charbonnet sees it. He sees it, and he comes across in front and picks it up nice. And McNamara steps under, pushes a pass rush or pushes a pocket, steps underneath all the rush, allows now the outside receiver to put a double move on the safety because the safety sees the slant. I believe this is zero coverage. He sees the slant. He's locked on him and jumps it, thinking that the quarterback isn't going to have time to get it off. And he breaks his ankles basically, and the X receiver runs right by him.
Yes, he does. All right. So, Mr. Borges, let's go ahead and let it roll. Blitz pickup, rides him out. wide open touchdown.
Yeah, and he got the safety to bite it. But again, pressure, a lot of pressure. Look how quickly the ball's out, Sam. And again, that's kind of a floater. You know what I mean? That's not uh, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, that's about a 6 throw, but it's a 10 throw as far as I'm concerned.
It's a touchdown.
It's a touchdown.
That's a 10 throw, man. That's a 10
it
throw.
didn't spin perfect. I mean, the aesthetics weren't all you wanted, but who gives a rip, right?
Right. You're exactly right. All right. So let's go ahead. And, you know, as you get deeper in the game, you just see a guy who's he's feeling it, Al. And I want to show a sequence just real quick. This is not with telestration, but you said this is what they are. This is what you expect. And I'm subtracting the runs from this series, but this is the last touchdown drive of the regulation. All right.
This is a hitch slant on an RPO versus a blitz. It was a called stretch play. The weak inside linebacker took the bait, and he had Ronnie Bell singled up out there. This is a line route, RPO. This next one is an RPO. The ends up the field. He pulls it and makes what we used to call an awkward throw, which means he was not in great position moving to his left to throw it. And he kind of sidearms it. Watch this now. This is doing what you got to do to make the play. See that? Now that isn't going to make the front of a Wheaties box. You know, they're not going to use that one, but that's a hell of a throw under the circumstances. Same thing, line route. See how he gets back, gets away from the rush, and just kind of wrists it over the top. Now that required a different throw. He didn't have to sidearm that. He had to kind of wrist that one and just make sure it got to him. This is a split zone with a spot screen. You get the apex defender adding into the box. Boom. Oh, he takes a bite. Now it's one-on-one. See that, Sam? See that apex? He jumps it. And now you got.
So wait, so I guess let me point it out. Apex defender.
That dude right there. Watch him bite the run. See, he's got his eye on him the whole time. As soon as he adds into the box, ball's out. Now it's you got a blocker and you got a ball carrier with one guy out there to stop it. See, it's a lot of, so these aren't huge plays. These are just chains movers, you know, but they're not incomplete. You know what I mean? They're complete for plus yardage, and you get to run your offense now. Okay. Now here's another spot screen off his own play. Bam. The outside receiver, Ronnie Bell, basically takes out two guys.
Which is good to see because perimeter blocking.
Oh, yeah. I told you.
The perimeter blocking has been pretty bad.
Yeah, the perimeter blocking in the first half was abysmal. The perimeter blocking in the second half was really good.
But the first half in the last 3 games has been abysmal.
Yeah, well, but this was, and again, this kid is energizing people. You know what I mean? He's energizing, rejuvenating what wasn't very good into something that everybody believes can be and will be good.
Right, and so taking what's there, recognition, decisive action, accurate balls.
Accurate balls you can run with once you catch them. You don't fall on the ground for. You see what I mean? He can do something with that. If that ball isn't thrown perfectly, that's a tackle for loss, you know. But because he can catch it in full stride and square up to the defense and do his deal, that makes a difference, you know.
So I want to be, cautiously optimistic. I mean, we saw, for instance, Joe look really good in game 1, right?
Yep.
And he was not able to maintain that level of play. That can happen. I mean, you think about a couple of weeks ago, Luke McCaffrey comes into the game for Nebraska. He's anointed. He's going to be the answer. He gets in the game last week. He throws 3 interceptions.
Yep.
Right? Penn State, they make a change at quarterback. They went back to their starter when the guy that they had anointed, the relief pitcher, if you will, comes in, initially quarterbacks them well, and then the next game he comes out, he falters. We talked about Graham Mertz last week, and I said this on this breakdown, Al. Graham Mertz didn't play great against Michigan. Graham Mertz had an okay game against Michigan. It was made to look better than it was because Joe struggled so mightily in the game, And guess what? They rushed for 300 and they rushed for 3,000 yards in the game, Al. I mean,
he was a beneficiary of an imposing running game. That makes a big difference.
Right. It makes a huge difference. So he was 12 for 22 in that game. He hit some throws, but he missed some wide open guys. Yeah. And so they got on the field against Northwestern, a good defense. Granted, I mean, it's a much better defense than Michigan's. And it was like, he looked young, threw 3 picks in the game, and that was the difference in the game. So the reason why I lay that out is to highlight that, hey, this is, he came in relief late in the game against Wisconsin, looked good, but it was late. Game was already out of hand.
A lot less pressure.
Not as much pressure. This was a relief game, a game in relief against Rutgers, albeit very impressively. They were down 17-0. I'm putting a lot of stock in that, but understanding that he could find some hiccups, as young quarterbacks often do. What I hope, Al, is that if he does find hiccups or encounter hiccups along the way, that they give him the opportunity to play through those, bounce back from those, just like they just did Joe. I think the thing you can least afford to do now is to play musical chairs with the quarterback. If you're giving the keys to Cade McNamara now, let him drive. Let him drive even if he runs off the road a couple of times. Let him see if he can get back on it. See if he can drive straight. At the very least, you know what you have heading into this offseason, or you got a better idea of what you have heading into this offseason at quarterback position if you allow him to have the keys the rest of the way.
Sam, I want to emphasize to anybody listening, because everybody's going to always, second guess this, but there's going to be game-specific errors with this kid. Okay, they're going to come up just like they came up with Joe Milton. Now, hopefully his playmaking ability, which he's shown, considerable amount of, will overcome some of that. But there's going to be some game-specific errors. He's going to throw an interception. He's going to throw a ball late. He's going to do something that you're going to want to pull your hair out, that you've coached as a coach, right? You've taught him how to do. He's still going to do it.
He's throwing the coverage in this game where you're like, that didn't look good. He got a PI out of it, but it seemed like an ill-advised throw to me.
Ill-advised throw. Sometimes
and then there was he missed a read on one of those RPOs, and you had Hassan Haskins just make them right. We're going to show that coming up, but one more pass play that was telestrated. I know you wanted to have an opportunity to talk about, Al, really, really quickly, and this was the pick under. And this is the pick, the pick play, huge play. It was a 4th down play to Chris Evans. And then they wound up scoring on the same play to Mikey Sainristil. This is the pick under play. And this goes for a big, and this is 4th down.
Yeah, huge play. Both of them were. Now that's where we're attacking. You see the circle?
Uh-huh.
That's where we're attacking. We're going to run a little stutter slant and allow number 2 to come out and inhibit the corner from getting underneath that, okay? And then number 3 is going to run a little corner route, and he can be like a zone outlet if they're not playing man-to-man, okay? You can see how it looks. That's how it starts. The outside receiver is going to delay just a hair to let that develop and then shoot right into that seam. The backsides run a little out, 2 outs, little deep stick with a little flat route by the wingman. But he sees man-to-man. He sees them matching heads. Everybody's got a head. They're staring right in the helmet of the guy they're covering. They're kind of telling you what they're playing, Mm-hmm. So right now in his mind, he's going, I'm going to wait for that pick to happen. If for some reason they switch the pick, the guy doing the pick is going to run a little slant off that. You can see that arrow,
Mm-hmm.
So once he sets it, he'll slant second. So it'll be 1, 2, and then you got the corner out 3 if you get a zone.
Yeah, but you want this because this is a clear out, basically. This is a pick play. He should be wide open coming through here, and it was run perfectly.
Right.
All right, so here we go. You'll see it.
See that? Bingo. Didn't even have to touch the guy. He just held him up enough so that the guy couldn't get through it.
Right, and they wind up scoring with Mikey Sainristil. I'll bring that up here really quickly so you can see it was the same play. All right, pick under Mikey Sainristil for a touchdown now.
Yeah, they cheated a little more on this one because it looked like he actually blocked the
I can't believe you just said that, Coach. You're an offensive coach, and you caught this cheating?
Yeah, they actually blocked the corner here because he was pressing, right? And they wanted to make sure he couldn't chase that thing inside. So So
That's
he
not
went
a
out and
lot.
made damn
He
sure
turned
there's
for the
no.
ball, coach.
Yeah,
He
no, it is.
turned for the ball, and his butt happens to
No,
be a
I'm with
little
you,
big.
Sam. I'm not going to argue it, but if you're the Rutgers coaches, I promise you somebody's screaming over there. But that's nice looking play. Good call. Good situation to run it,
Right.
And that's one of those reasons, Sam, you got to mix your coverages a little bit sometimes, if they know you're in man-to-man, that's the stuff you get,
Right. So if you guys have watched us the last few weeks, I've been adamant that, look, Michigan has talent in the backfield. Good. It's more talent than a lot of teams. Wow. They have 4 backs that could legitimately contribute. But I just feel and have felt that Hassan Haskins is their best back. Best back from a vision, from a yards after contact, and just demeanor for not just your offense, but for your team.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned and you remember, Al, we got into the discussion last year about the Ohio State game. There were some guys that flat out in the second half of that Ohio State game last year, they acted like the game was over. Look, it's all over but the shouting, right? This game's over. And there were guys on the field playing like that. Hassan Haskins wasn't one of them. And so much of the focus and attention was on him not following his blocks on that 4th down play. What was that? Was that a pin and pull, Al?
Yeah, I think it was, if I
think
remember.
It was a pin and pull where
he didn't follow.
He didn't follow his blocker on that pin. He tried to cut back against it and got hit for a loss on 4th and 1. And all of the attention was on that, when what the focus should have been was that the only reason that play had a chance of making a difference was because of Hassan Haskins and how he was playing in that game. So you're looking for guys to play with pride. You're looking for guys to play with heart. You're looking for someone to give your team some attitude and lift. Case in point, number 25 has already shown you, Coach Borges, that he can do that. And so in this game, feed Hassan Haskins. And they fed Hassan Haskins in this game, Al, and he rewarded him. He rewarded them in a big way.
And because of the efficiency on 3rd down, the efficiency on early downs to stay on schedule, they were able to run the ball, call more runs. You know what I mean, Sam? Call more runs. Get Hassan going a little bit rather than going 3 and out, punting the damn thing, and then, nobody's happy about touches. Yeah. Yep. Now, the first thing, there you go. We'll highlight the nose. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a check with me play, although I don't know that for sure, where they're trying to load or trap that nose guard with one of those wings, okay? In this case, it's Eubanks. So all they're doing here is the front side's going to zone to the front side linebacker and 5 technique. The center is going to kind of set that nose guard up, but he's going to block back with the left guard and the left tackle. And that other wing's just going to arc around and block the safety, okay? And then Eubanks is going to basically, like a pulling guard, trap that nose. Now, the big thing is, as you can see, we're going to trap the nose guard, but Haskins has to beat that outside linebacker. He's unblocked on this. So he's going to hit downhill, just like his own play, and try and run through. Hopefully that nose will disappear with the center a little bit and provide a big cavity in there to run.
All right. Let this play. Boom, trap.
And he beats the linebacker, and there he goes. Linebacker.
That's him. You give him one-on-one opportunity, man.
So you can really see it there.
And he's going to beat him, right? And so, Harbaugh made a big deal out of Hassan Haskins making yards where there were none, right? Mm-hmm. And there were plays in this game that really highlight that. Highlight what he was talking about.
That's shown up for 2 years. This is a news.
Okay, so this is an example. This play right here is an example of Cade McNamara getting it wrong. Cade got it wrong, and Hassan Haskins made him right. It's a pin and pull RPO.
Pin and pull RPO. Yeah, now, all right, let's go through it. Now, you got weak inside linebacker is the read guy, right, Sam? Now, do you have this now? Damn it, I've told you how to do this.
I got it, Al.
Okay, so first puller's got the widest. Second puller's got the first inside linebacker. You're reading the weak inside linebacker who takes the run.
Yes,
this really probably should have been thrown. But Haskins, he don't care. No block, no problem.
So watch where he goes. Watch where this guy goes. He's going with the run.
Yeah, he playing run all the way. Haskins don't care.
So do you understand why this should have been thrown now, people? If you're watching, you look at this guy, pin and pull is going to the boundary. If this guy goes to the boundary, I mean, he's going with the run, man. You got some space here, Al, to hit a throw, right?
Yeah.
You got some space here. So this guy has Hassan Haskins dead to rights because the quarterback misread this RPO.
Yeah.
He should pull this ball and throw it.
Yeah, he did it earlier. Remember, Sam, later in the game. He does it later in the game and hits Ronnie Bell. But Haskins says, you can have your stinking RPO. Give me the ball.
Give me the ball. Dead to rights. You aren't getting me.
Yeah, that's right.
That play should have been hit at the line of scrimmage. But Hassan Haskins made it right. And so now I'm going to give you a series of plays like that where if you had any question about if you need a yard, I mean, I think back to all of the controversy over the Wildcat duo from Pistol. You remember people were like, why would you give the ball to Hassan Haskins as opposed to your quarterback, Joe Milton? And I think first of all, Hassan Haskins had just had 2 big runs on that drive, Al. Mm-hmm. And if you need a guy to sniff out the end zone to get you a couple yards, who's the best guy on your roster to do that? It's Hassan Haskins. And you're gonna give him an extra blocker. I still can't understand why people were a bit out of shape about that one. But watch this series if you still need to be convinced. This is Hassan Haskins on the final drive of the 4th quarter.
28-27, 9 minutes left. So it's time to grind. Okay. Split zone. Still going.
Nothing was there. But here we go again, running through tackles. I'm going to find a way if I'm Hassan Haskins. Still, more yards after contact, Al.
Yep. Counter. Patience. Explosion.
Let's look at this one again, Al, because it's
an interesting play because it's not pretty, but the pulling fullback kind of gets hung a second, but he does do the right thing.
He goes around because you guys might remember we against Michigan State, you had Ben Mason blocking the same guy as the pulling guard.
Exactly. So he learned. It's good.
Yeah.
But now Hassan shows enough patience to get around that little garbage, let it develop a little bit, and boom, there's the seam.
Found the cutback lane. Great vision and patience. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, look at this cutback lane. Felt it. Mm-hmm. Just different. He's not the fastest guy they have. He doesn't catch the football as well as some other guys. All I know is we're talking about ball players and dogs, right?
Yeah, he's a dog. He is a dog, without a question. He makes the top 5 performers on the offense. Probably top 3 performers on the offense. He's a guy that you're going to get your best effort from every time. That means a lot to the guys that you play next time.
That doesn't mean you don't have a rotation now. Like I said, I'm no coach. I mean, I'm sure that there are guys that fit different things that they do better. Mm-hmm. Not saying that it would be wrong for them to continue to feature. I mean, Zach Charbonnet, you saw him make some big. He had some big runs in this game. Big blitz pickup. We saw Chris Evans catch that rub route. Blake Corum has speed and can make some plays. I'm just talking about who you feature, who you feed the
featured back. That's always been is have a featured back, and then have other guys who spell him. They play. They're too good to sit. You got to get. But the featured back, he's going to get the 20 carries. Okay, if we can get 20 in, he's going to get the 20 carries, and the other guys are going to get the rest. And that's hard. The backs, they want that damn ball, right? They want. But I just believe a good back needs to get some rhythm. He needs to carry the ball a few times, see the holes, and the good ones get stronger as the game goes on. And I think he falls into that category.
We're going to get a little defense in, but I just got to highlight. Look, I think Michigan has, they still need some competition at a couple of spots up front. You got to believe that the competition is ongoing at their left guard spot. You got to believe that's the case. You saw Zach Carpenter get in and make some plays, make some young mistakes, but I think that's going to happen with a young player. But you saw the offensive line start to make some more blocks as the game went on. And this is one play that I got to highlight young Carson Barnhart, because he hit a triple on this play, Al. This is a counter to a counter to Zach Charbonnet. So it was a nice play to Zach. Let me bring this up before we get to some defense. I just got to highlight. This is some really good stuff from a young offensive lineman that, when you talk about giving the young guys a shot, yeah, maybe they'll blow some, but then maybe they'll make some plays like this. Maybe they'll make up for it with a couple of really impressive plays. You got this screen now?
Yeah, I do.
All right. So wait, let me highlight Carson Barnhart, your left tackle first.
Mm-hmm.
So understand, young guys are going to make some mistakes, but young, talented athletes, maybe they'll do something like this. So this is Carson Barnhart, your left tackle right here. And just watch him on the play. This is going to be a nice 9-10-yard run for Zach Charbonnet, but pay attention to Carson Barnhart and look at all the blocks he gets on this play. Boom. I'm getting up. Boom. Let me get another one. Boom. Give it to me, Al.
Yeah,
give me that.
Sam, hitting the triple is a lot better than throwing a no-hitter when you're a lineman. I'm going to tell you that.
Give me that. He got up off his knees to make some blocks, man. That's what you need, though. Some athleticism. I think that, you do have some bigger, not as fleet-footed guys on some of these plays that you're asking them to make blocks in space that they struggle a little bit to do, that maybe some of your younger guys, again, they might block the wrong guy on some play. They might misidentify who they're supposed to hit. But every now and then they'll do something like that to make you say, hey, maybe the more they play, the better they'll get. The mistakes that they made will be functional and they'll improve from them. We'll see.
Yeah,
that's the kind of play that kind of gives you some promise, right? Some optimism. So I know it's Rutgers. Don't get me wrong. This is Rutgers that we're talking about.
We're not saying that tonight, Sam. We're 1-3 going to this game.
All right. So one of the reasons why this team has to be in the 30s, if not higher, is because, Al, I just think, and I said this before, I don't think they can fix this defense in season. There are too many injuries, too many shortcomings. Some of the flaws have to be fixed with just different personnel. Maybe different strategy that has to be adjusted in the offseason. There's just a lot. They've already adjusted some strategy here in season with some more zone, and you see some flaws in that. So with our telestrations on defense, understand there are a few good plays defensively, but the ones that we're going to highlight are indicative of the issues that we've seen them have for weeks, indicative of the issues that we've seen them have in this game, and indicative of the issues that I think we're going to see them continue to have, unfortunately, moving forward. All right, so here we go, Al.
Okay, so the 5 technique on the top is basically responsible for what we call for squeezing when the tackle blocks down, and then he goes into what we call a chase and trail technique, where he'll, as soon as that tackle blocks down, he should work down the line of scrimmage and visualize a reverse coming the other direction, knowing that we may have to redirect to kick the reverse either deep or back inside so everybody can rally to the run. You can see the way it's telestrated. You have to squeeze because you don't know what's coming on a down block, okay? But once you see the ball go away, your eyes go straight to the perimeter to see if something's coming back. Because if you get that turned in or kicked deep, the reverse is going nowhere. The only time you get the reverse is going somewhere is you're oblivious to the something coming back and you cancel yourself, and they got a convoy of blockers coming in front of the reverse guy.
Yeah, so he's your contain. He's the edge of your defense. If he gets lost, there's no one here. All right.
Right.
So this is what he should do.
Right. With the down block. There's no game on. There's no twist, no nothing. So the 5 has got to see the reverse. As you see, what's incorrect, what he does is he stacks the 3 when the ball goes away on a down block.
Yeah, he winds up further inside than the 3.
Right. He's further inside than the 3. Now he's giving up the entire flank. There's going to be a convoy in front of the ball carrier.
That's just it. You now you get Quiddy payback, and that's going to help that some, right? That's going to help that a lot, I should say. You would think.
Yes.
So there's some hope there, but you're still without Aiden on the other side, and you're going to get maybe some youthful mistakes there, like we've seen the last couple of weeks. So that was one issue that we've seen be a recurring theme for them defensively. Another one, Al, that we've seen. How about a cover 2 drop? Now we've talked about this here about how Michigan they played more zone than I think they probably played more zone in the last few games than they probably did all that. And they played a lot of zone last season, but I'm trying to emphasize for effect how much zone they're playing here of late, right?
Yeah.
So this is still, though, a bit foreign to them when it comes to how much they're doing it. This is an aggressive man-to-man team that you're asking to be softer in their coverage plan, and you see the results of that lack of repetition in this out. So I want you to talk through this, because this was a 3rd and 11.
Yeah.
Right. And they're in zone here. And here's the thing, Al. I mean, I want to say there was a 3rd and 15, and they were in man-to-man. I think it was early. It was the quarterback sneak play, and it drove me nuts. It's like, come on, why? I didn't get it. I didn't get that call in that situation. But then you turn. I imagine if you're Don Brown, you say, well, hey, here's 3rd and 11, and I'm in zone. And look what happened. If I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down swinging. I'm just trying to put myself in this headspace about what he might be thinking, because when things like this happen, you say, well, maybe I should just throw my haymakers, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when they don't execute it right, that doesn't make it a bad call. It just makes it a bad call because it didn't work. So right. I guess that's a bad call. But in the 2 deep, they're playing 5 men underneath and 2 people deep. Now, what you want to do, if you got 5 guys playing underneath, you'd like to get 3 drop into the field and 2 drop into the boundary for obvious reasons. There's more receivers and a lot more width, right? So in this case, you got double slants coming at the top of the screen. The nickel, the number 12, who's Ross, okay, he now has to drop to the curl area, and with the mic coming his direction on this, okay, because the mic's not going away. He's coming to him. He can now pass that slant to the mic. He doesn't have to wall that slant. Now, if the mic was going away from him, like into the boundary, he can't let that slant get inside him because there's nobody to help him, right? But he can just pass that slant. Because remember now, the corner's playing outside position in cover 2 and is at a disadvantage on playing the slant because of that. Now, that some corners can still play that. Now, I've seen guys that can play slants in cover 2, but it is advantage receiver just purely by his position. Mm-hmm. So what he does here, he walls off a number 2 instead of passing it to the linebacker, which creates a big hole for the slant.
All right, so we're going to show you what he did instead. This is what he did instead. He walls this slant off, and then leaves this huge hole right here behind him.
Yeah, he didn't allow the Mike linebacker to get there. See how he freezes? Now, bam, there's the hole. Where all he had to do is, if you just looked at the first diagram, is basically just drop to that area and pass that slant to the mic, because he's going right where the mic is. The mic covered easily. You should not be able to hit double slants into it 2 deep to the field if they're playing it smart, you know?
But this shows that this is not something that they're very proficient in. I mean, so much attention is on the secondary. I mean, the holes the biggest holes in cover 2 for them have been with their linebackers. I mean, we saw it against Indiana. We certainly saw it in this game. But that doesn't mean that the secondary is without fault. Now, it should be noted that the corners have tightened up. I mean, they haven't been beaten over the top.
No,
the last few. I mean, it's not like Wisconsin had to throw it. So I guess that shouldn't be That's not necessarily the best case.
But they still tried those.
They still tried. They still tried.
They tried to throw. They have not had balls thrown over their heads, and there's been less penalties. I might add too. I think the corner play has improved on deep balls without a doubt. It's gotten better. Now they got hurt to the post a couple times this week, but in terms of getting balls tossed over the top of your head on the flank, that hadn't happened much.
All right. So, but you did have some issues on the back end with your safeties. Being caught out of position on a number of occasions in this game, a few glaring occasions, and one of them was on Rutgers, their third touchdown. This came in the third quarter, and you just had no safety help in the middle of the field. It was wide open. So I'm going to share this screen with you now, Al, and this is no free safety help on the scene.
Yeah, you can see the guy on number 2 is playing outside him, so he's assuming he's taking help off the free safety.
Right. So you're saying he has outside leverage, so that means he thinks he has help to the inside. You can see how he's lined up.
See how he shuffles outside, and then the guy slips under him. He's assuming the safety's going to be over the top. I got to believe that anyway. Assuming he's got free safety help, and he just didn't get enough depth. This will occasionally happen on a play pass if you get a nosy free safety, but this is just a drop back. It's a little surprising that he didn't get deep because there's nothing there to deceive him.
So, the point in showing that is, can they tighten some things up defensively? Sure. I want your take on this as we wrap up here. I think this has to be an opportunistic defense. What do I mean by that? There were 3rd and long situations in this game, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 8 plus. They got to get off the field at a high rate because I think teams are going to move the football on them very consistently. They're going to score. They're going to put up points. So when you have an advantageous situation like that, it is imperative that they take advantage of those situations. That they have an opportunity for a turnover. I mean, there was the interception that, look, if you know anything about Dax Hill, and I've seen a lot of critique of, I thought he was a 5-star. Look, man, I've seen All Americans have bad days.
Yeah, I saw balls thrown to Ronnie Lott's head. So
I'm not ready. I'm not saying that he's an All American yet, but I don't think you look at this game and say, oh well, Dax Hill is overrated. He had some off plays in this game. You'll see him bounce back. The one he's probably kicking himself over the most. I mean, maybe he's kicking himself over that touchdown, but I think it was the interception where he didn't attack the reception where he didn't attack the football. Mm-hmm. So the instances where they can get their hands on the football, they have got to come down with those, get off the field in 3rd and long situations at a high rate. That I think is enough as long as their offense can put at least 30 on the board. It still puts the burden on the offense to carry them to victory. You just need your defense to make a few plays per game. And why do I say that? Because I think that's the ceiling for the defense this year, Al. And that might be unfair to the offense. That might sound like, hey, you're letting the defense off the hook. No, I'm not. I'm just looking at facts. And I just don't think that they have the fixes in-house right now, whether it's due to experience or tweaking the plan or getting the guys to learn the plan quick enough. I don't think they have those things in place to really expect this defense to have a huge turnaround to the extent where we can expect them to hold people down. They got to be opportunistic, and the offense is going to have to put up 30 to 40 a game. That's what I think, Mr. Borges.
Well, this is what I'm going to tell you. In the 30 years that I coordinated offense, I can think of a handful of times where I thought that the defense was equal to the offense or vice versa. There was always one side of the ball that was a little bit better and sometimes a lot better. And that sometimes it was my side of the ball. Sometimes it was the other side of the ball. So a pure team effort means that you have to make compensations based on what your team is. Identify what your team is. Say, we may have to play a little more conservative offensively because we are ass kicking on defense. They can't run on us. They can't. So we're going to, we don't have a lot of big play guys. We're going to run the ball more, may not score as many points, but we can still win games because we play good defense. And another year, hell, I was at UCLA, we struggled defensively and we scored 40 something points a game, but complain about the defense. That's what they are that year. Another year, it may be flipped. So you don't complain about it. You do what it takes to win the games and understand that the dynamic could flip in a minute. It could flip it altogether the next year because, like I said, there was probably 2, maybe 3 times where I could say that the offense and the defense are really evenly matched. That was that way when I was at Auburn, my first year when we were 13-0. Our defense was top 10 in scoring. Our defense scoring. Our offense was number 1 in the league in scoring offense, number 1 total offense. We were good on both sides of the ball. That's how you win 13 games, right? But other years we could still win 11. We could still win 10 just because one side had to pull the rope the other direction, and maybe the coordinator had to pull in what he wanted to do a little bit to make sure that you could still succeed. Maybe not do all you wanted to do, and that's not easy to do now. That's not easy to do, but that may be what it takes for everybody to succeed.
Gotcha. Well, hey, it's another film session in the books. I hope you guys took a lot from this. Al said, hey, we aren't focusing on it just being Rutgers. I understand. It was just Rutgers. I understand people saying that nationally, and that's if you're looking at Michigan through a traditional lens of what they are historically. But what they are this year, what they were heading into that game, was a 1-3 football team in desperate need of a victory. Had they lost it, I don't think they would have won another game the rest of the season. So a meaningful victory for them from that standpoint. We'll see if they can build on it. We'll be back next week to talk all about it. You guys have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you over on the boards and next week here on the Michigan Insider Film Breakdown.